Something that I'm constantly preaching in this channel is to just slow down and observe. Because sometimes you'll find something that's really neat. Sometimes games reward you with this behavior monetarily, usually in the form of loot or whatever that game's currency is. Other times it will reward you with little hidden nuggets of environmental storytelling, which is my preferred form of payment in this context, and the subject of today's video. So what is environmental storytelling? It's really cool. It's when you rely on visual cues to tell a story. For example, do you remember when you were playing with Legos as a kid and you would arrange your Legos to simulate a battle or a duel, or maybe just some downtime working on a starship or something? Well, congratulations, you were doing environmental storytelling. But open world video games is where environmental storytelling really shines, particularly Elder Scrolls and Fallout. I know there's more, those are just the games that I have. Because the worlds in which you are playing in are so vast that it needs to be filled with things to keep you interacting with it. It can't just be, oh look, here's a tree, and over there, a different tree. It needs to be lively, and the best way to do this is with stories. But not every story can have an NPC with it to tell you what happened. So that's where environmental storytelling comes into play. Environmental storytelling can range from anything as simple as a cleverly placed suggestive book under someone's bed. Oh, we got leather strips, a horker tusk, and the closest thing Skyrim has to porn. Okay, she's nasty. Or placing a stamina potion next to a secluded bucket, implying that even the people of Skyrim aren't immune to stripping the bolts every once in a while. Oh my goodness. These people need helmets for their bowel movements. I want it. Sometimes these small instances will be partnered with a journal or some kind of tattered note that tell you what happened. Other times it will have you play detective and have you gather context clues to have you piece together a story. Basically, if they aren't telling you the story up front, make one. That's sort of one of the main points of role-playing games. Take for example this guy. We've all ran into this guy, right? But in case you haven't, this poor soul, let's call him Frank, can be found in the Swindler's Den east of Rorikstead. Somehow he found himself trapped in the bale of hay reaching for a drink. So how did Frank get here? First of all, square hay bales didn't become a thing until like the 1930s. So if you're gonna argue that he's a time traveler, you can stop right there. Because square hay bales are already found all around Skyrim, so somebody must have already invented them. So this idea of time travel is just crazy talk. But seriously, someone put him there, because you don't just become one with a hay bale willy-nilly. And this bottle was placed just out of arm's reach, indicating that it was placed there on purpose with ill intent. Like whoever did it was making it personal by taunting Frank. So, where did Frank come from and how did he get here? Let's pull up the map. The closest place with a large abundance of hay is going to be Rorikstead, a place known for its farming. And I think we need to pay Rorikstead a visit. Rorikstead is one of my favorite little towns because it's just one big example of environmental storytelling. Rorikstead is known for two things: being home to a horse thief,
Lokir of Rorikstead. You're not gonna kill me!
and having successful farms. There's rarely a reason to ever actually go here, but how are his farms so successful? Current evidence suggests that you need water to grow crops, and the nearest water source is just a single water well up the road belonging to another farm. But if you go sniffing around Rorikstead, you'll learn that it used to basically be a barren landscape where nothing would grow.
Back then, nothing would grow here, and so the land was worthless.
Then came Rorik and his Breton broski Joanne, and next thing you know, Rorikstead is so fertile that people are even considering buying their dirt. So how is such a sudden transformation possible? There's gotta be something fishy going on here, right? Stop! I know what you're going to say. There's no mystery that there's something suspicious going on with Rorikstead. This has already been covered. And in case you don't know what I'm talking about, I'll give you the spark notes. About 12 years ago, a Reddit user, whose account has since been deleted, therefore I cannot give proper credit, also smelled the shit winds of Rorikstead.
Shit winds are common.
And did some investigative work of their own. I'll leave the link to the Reddit post in the description. He proposed that Rorikstead is secretly the biggest cult in the game, claiming that they're using some kind of magic to give the soil life. The evidence for this is that you can find filled soul gems in some of the houses, and that there are Deidre books in Rorik's house suggesting worship. Plus, when you talk to each person about the farms, they mention that it must be a blessing from the gods.
There are no secrets here, my curious friend. Our prosperity is simply the result of hard work, good fortune, and the blessings of the gods.
Have you given
Now,
my idea any
thanks to
more
the hard
thought?
work and the
You
gods'
said you'd let me
blessings,
know yesterday,
our farms
that
prosper.
obviously didn't happen.
And I'm inclined to agree with this conjecture, but I wanted to do some investigative work of my own, and here are my findings. Most people probably know about the Shrine of Akatosh hidden above the town, and Akatosh is what?
Anyone? Anyone?
That's right, the dragon god of time. And inside Rorik's house are more of those same square hay bales that we find Frank in, and to me, it looks like one of them is missing. And remember, Joanne was some kind of miracle healer in the war.
A healer named Joanne saved my life. He's been my closest friend ever since. I tell you, that man is a miracle worker.
And restoration magic is basically just manipulating life and stuff. So, we can conclude that Frank was one of those guys that also smelled the winds of shit in Rorikstead.
The winds of shit, yes.
I wanted to figure out what was up. He discovered that Joanne was a time traveler from the future and brought with him modern healing and farming practices, including square hay bales. And that's why he was able to save Rorik and revitalize the land. But Joanne caught Frank, stuffed him in a hay bale, hid that hay bale in Swindler's den. Then when Frank came to, Joanne taunted him with a bottle of mead. Then he used time magic to rapidly decompose Frank's body, so it looked like he's been there for years. But me and Frank aren't the only ones that have snooped around Rorikstead. Remember that horse thief I mentioned earlier that was also from Rorikstead? He wasn't just fleeing to Hammerfell for the hell of it. No, he was running from Joanne because he discovered his secrets and his life was now in danger, just like Frank's was. So he stole a horse and ran for his life so he wouldn't end up like Frank. And that is why environmental storytelling is so much fun.